welcome back to episode 2 of the Driving Talk podcast, powered by Icon. And this is episode 2, Enter the Dragon, because we have a bit of a Welsh theme going on today. We've got Rhys Lloyd joining us today. You would have noticed as well, one of our regular hosts, Paul Harvey, isn't with us. Unfortunately, he's probably flat out working in the centre of London, but he can't join us for this episode. But Rhys, Max, it's great to have you guys on the Driving Talk podcast.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the dragon intro. I'm glad there was no sheep jokes, obviously, on the intro.
No. Well, I mean, only from you. I mean, you may have guessed from the surname or not. I come from a Welsh background as well. A lot of my family hail from Port Talbot, so
okay.
Yeah, you won't get a lot coming from this end. So we know who the protagonist is going to be for the rest of the show. Don't worry about that. But obviously, the dragon theme kind of coincides with Dragonsport, which is the racing team that you own and run, and you run a very successful scholarship, and we'll get on and talk about that as well. And Max, you've kind of been part of this journey more or less from the start, haven't you?
Yeah, so Rhys and I met when we were both racing in some C1s. So we sort of both know a company called Gala Performance. They ended up becoming a sponsor of mine, and Rhys was racing with them guys in the C1. I got invited to go and do the 24-hour race with them, and that's kind of how me and Rhys met. Well, actually, I think we met at the cross round before that, but then raced together at the 24-hour, and then that was kind of where things developed. And I think at the time, what Dragonsport has become was probably, well, it certainly wasn't in my head. I don't know whether it was in Rhys's, but I don't think so, if I'm honest. I think the initial thing started with Rhys having a phone call 2 Autosport shows ago, pretty much on the way home, and sort of said, can we go and race a TCR car in Brickcar next year? So yeah, I guess it's a bit of a weird podcast for me, because I'm involved on both sides, you know. So I'm a co-host of a podcast, but also in a way sort of part of the guest lineup. So yeah,
you're very much.
What's going on?
Yeah,
that's
very
Max
much
all over it.
Max. Yeah, literally, you could pick apart any project in British motorsport at the moment, and chances are Max Coates has probably been a part of it, is a part of it, or is going to be a part of it in the future.
Definitely.
So, Rhys, I come to you, good sir. So, your motorsport journey, where did it start for you?
God, it's a long time ago in a very wet Pembrey circuit back in 1997, believe it or not. I obviously was very young at the time. I'm still very young at the moment. But yeah, no, my karting journey obviously began back in karting. Kind of started when I was around 10, 11. We did a lot of events at Pembrey, and we did the Super 1 championships. Kind of won a few national championships in karting, and then kind of progressed on to car racing at the age of 17. Did a local Welsh Sports and Saloon car championship, and then we had a few incidents in my personal life. My father passed away when I was quite young, so fortunately when I was 18 he passed away, and obviously he was a really big part of obviously the motorsport journey and links with Pembrey and everything. So it made it a little bit more tricky for probably 2 or 3 years, as you could say maybe a bit of peer pressure came in as well. Obviously, I was always the black sheep of the family coming from Wales going into racing. All of my friends, all the people I knew in Wales all went rallying. And I kind of had a bit more choice on which way I wanted to go and do my racing or rallying. So I chose to go down the rallying path then when I was 18. Which brought its own kind of set of unique challenges. We were really successful on tarmac rallies, and we won the Tour of Epent. We won the Cambrian Rally, but when it came to the forestry and the gravel, we had some big accidents, some pretty big accidents, and some pretty spectacular bills as well to come out of that.
Sent it pretty hard then.
Yeah, we did, and like everything we do, we like to do things properly. My best friend at the time and my fellow co-driver, we went on to do Wales Rally GB in 2005, I think it was, top of my head. We completed that event. We finished about 9th or 10th, I think, overall in Group N, which, at the time in those days when you had 130, 140 cars doing Wales Rally GB, it was a pretty awesome, great thing to be part
I
of.
was I was going to say, because arguably, apart from obviously the 90s with McRae and Burns, that's kind of where that sort of 15-20 year period, you're amongst the time where rallying was in this country was really at its biggest interest.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why everyone was telling me, they were going, oh, why are you going racing? Why are you going karting? Why are you going here? Everything is, for me, it's a complete opposite to what I am now. I could go half an hour and there's so many forestries and local events going on in our area that it made sense. It's just a completely, obviously, set of disciplines. I grew up playing around in Brechfa Forest, which is notoriously one of the most famous forests in kind of world rallying. You watch Colin McRae on your doorstep 5-10 minutes down the road. It was a crazy era. So it was something that you really want to be part of. It was something I'm really proud of done, especially Wales Rally GB and done the rallying, because it brings so many of the set of skill set in where you're making your own pacing from scratch. You're driving in the dark. You're driving in complete darkness, no lights, and those skills transfer so much more back then into the racing side when you get back into the racing then at a later date.
So at least if you get it wrong, you've got the skills.
Lights.
Well, when I mean no lights, I mean like no lights in a forestry. So it's pitch black, isn't it? So if you think about headlamps, yeah, you've got headlamps and spot lamps, obviously, but by the time you've done the second run, they're obviously getting quite dirty because obviously all of the dirt is going on them. And, it's not like a circuit where you would do, say, Dubai 24, where you'd have, half the straight is lit up and the corners are lit up.
Yeah.
But, this is proper darkness.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was good times. It was good times.
That's like in stage rather than on the like recce.
Oh yeah, on stage. I mean, I think the longest stage we did was 56 kilometers, which when you think about it, it's pretty mammoth like stage really when you think about it now.
That's
And
big.
we would rerun it twice, and when there's 150 cars running that stage twice, the difference of the first run to the second run is unbelievable. The amount of ruts, the amount of rocks that's thrown out. You're effectively just driving on the sump guard for 50 kilometers, which is crazy, really.
Yeah.
So circuit racing, Welsh Sports and Saloons.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of that. So that's, I mean, it's almost a bit like the Thunder Championship in the UK. It's one of the most bonkers grids you could probably come across. You've got anything from a Ginetta to a GT car up the front and then a Ford Fiesta at the back.
Definitely,
so
yes.
What was it you ran in that?
So originally I ran a Group N Honda Civic back in 2003, just pre I went rallying, and then when I came back from rallying, we ran an MG ZR Group N, which actually we did Wales Rally GB in, so we converted it back from a rally car back to a circuit car. And then the following year we went a bit more seriously, so we bought a Leon Super Copa. The series had just folded in 2008, the new model. A glut of them had come for sale. We bought one. And the following year, we won the LMA Euro Saloon Car Championship outright, and we won the Welsh Championship outright, which was quite a, at the time, the LMA Championship was a really boisterous championship. It was a really good championship. There was about 6-7 of them in your class, the same car, and there was a grid of probably 40 other cars. It was a really good season for us, to be fair.
I remember that series well. Quite a lot of Super Tourists in there as well. So you had Richard Hawken, Andy Robinson would turn up in his Falcon as well. So to win that outright is a hell of an achievement.
Yeah.
Long before you've come to Brick Car, which I kind of akin that to Brick Car today, the Enduro side. I don't know if you'd think the same, Max, but a lot of the multi-class, different closing speeds and everything like that. Would you say it's kind of prepared him well for his Brick Car journey?
Yeah, well, I think that is exactly what Brick Car is. the class structure is created by a pretty crazy little system. So it is multi-class, but even within the class, it's a bit mixed up. You might have something with more power and less grip, or more grip and less power, or lighter or heavy or whatever. So the multi-class isn't like when you look at like professional level GT racing, where it is GT4, GT3, everything's relatively to a spec. Where within Brit car, to be honest, the only thing that's really to a spec is the Clio Cup class. Everything else is like massively varied. So yeah, I think it's definitely a good preparation. And for Rhys, just going back there to your karting days, I know we're going back a few steps. Was there a kart track at Pembrey?
Yes, there was. Yeah, so they use it on the rally now. So as you come into the circuit, it's on the right hand side. They use it as a bit of a motocross and bit of drifting and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, there was a proper
I never
classic.
knew that was there.
Yeah, it was quite a popular circuit. We used to obviously have a Welsh Championship round on one day, and you used to get a lot of Super 1 guys who'd come down for that weekend and stuff. But yeah, obviously Landau then took over really from Pembrey, obviously at a later date then, and then obviously that was the kind of standout circuit. But yeah, going back to this, so I did obviously that was 2009. We won both championships, and unfortunately, a few things happened in 2009 then where money was tight. We were hoping, obviously, by winning a few series, we were going to have a leg up as everyone does in a few of the championships, and it was difficult to see where the progression was. I think at the time I was 21 or 22, and I was kind of hoping to move up to maybe something like what Wax had done, the Clio Cup or something of that nature. We couldn't raise the budget to do it. And unfortunately, I stopped racing then in 2009. I just started a business also, and just kind of had to focus and knuckle down, and literally didn't watch any racing, didn't want to see any racing for probably 5 or 6 years, because I knew as soon as you see it, you get the bug back. So fortunately, I had a massive hiatus. I was still instructing down at Pembrey for a few years. And then I kind of ventured back into it in 2017, I think it was. I think I came back then. So I had quite a big hiatus really in the middle.
Yeah, because I suppose 2009, that would have been GFC time. So I think the credit crunch kind of hit for everyone.
It was.
A shame, really. Probably the worst time you could possibly try and go racing.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Literally, we won the championship. I think the month, 2 weeks after. I think the credit crunch came in, and we won it like 2 weeks later. And I think the Toka grid the year after was like on its knees. Everything kind of obviously changed for a lot of people, obviously overnight. So it was a difficult year, and we had to make the decision of, we've done this for so many years. Where are we going with this, and where are we ultimately going? And I had to focus on something, and that's how it went. It was really painful at the time. I remember it, winning 2 championships and then literally just kind of stopping, which was kind of a bit heartbreaking. But yeah.
So you have your hiatus, and you kind of withdraw yourself from the racing side of things for a few years.
Yeah.
My co-host gets quite a bit of success in that time, works his way through Ginettas and the rest of the Toka paddock, and everyone now knows the cheeky chappy that is Max Coates. Or as we actually found out in episode 1, he's the old git now.
Yeah.
What brought the comeback for you, Rhys? What made you think, I want to have another crack at this?
It was a few random set of events. I think actually I came back in originally 2015. I think I did actually come back, but it was for one event only. And that was at Anglesey for the mini challenge. Actually, that was very weird. When I had a really random phone call from a friend of mine called Carl Bradley, who was running a mini Coopers in the team at the time, and I think he was running one of the Paniatos. Lee Patterson was involved in the team. Can't remember who else was involved. But anyway, he just phoned me kind of a week before the event saying, a couple of drivers have pulled out for Anglesey. You should come back and do something. And I was like, it was just one of those phone calls. You were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. So we went to Anglesey and we did, I think it was 3 races. I think we qualified like quite well. We think we qualified fourth. And I think I had like a sixth, seventh and a DNF in the last round, in the last race of the weekend. But it was good. But obviously a lot of things have changed since I had been racing. You know, it was a lot more kind of safety cars. The track time was obviously quite shortened quite a bit. So it gave me like a bit of a taste for it again. But it wasn't probably something that I wanted to come back in to do was the mini challenge at the time. And then roll on like another year and a half. Just a couple of things happened and I stumbled across the C1 racing series. And yeah, and then it just kind of it went from there. So Rob, obviously, who runs Amigo now, which obviously we're part of with Rob at the moment, had a young driver who was going to C1s. We had a good conversation, a few tests, and ultimately, I think we missed the first year of the C1, but we were there pretty much from the start of the C1s when it really got going. So we did the first C124 at Rockingham. We went to Spa, and that's kind of where my passion for endurance racing really started. That I kind of, even though it was a lot lower speed and it was a lot lower budget than what we've been involved in, it was just the fun factor probably was one of it. It was just a great laugh. The racing was honestly out of this world. You know, when you've got 50, 60 C1s on the grid at the same time, I mean, you can't. It's just phenomenal. Um, the 24-hour racing obviously was super. You know, racing in the dark, and yeah, it was really really good. And we did that for kind of 2 or 3 seasons, and obviously that's where we were gently introduced to Max. And then ultimately from there, I still had a desire to do something a bit bigger. So when COVID hit, then a couple of months before COVID hit, I decided to do the Dubai 24. Uh, Again, it was quite a random set of events. I was at home in late November, started December, and kind of an advert comes up on Race Cars Direct. It was a French team, and the driver basically pulled out with a few weeks before the event. Um, I obviously had a discussion with them over the phone, which was quite interesting, as they didn't seem to understand anything I was saying, which was a bit concerning. Um, to be fair, I
That
didn't
was
really
because of the
understand a lot
French.
of what they were saying, but yeah, I went to Dubai. So I did the 2019 Dubai 24. And wow, it was just such an amazing experience. And also to get back in a TCR car then, I was ultimately as well, that was in Dubai. So we did Dubai, and then I did about another 4 or 5 Creventic events. I just loved the endurance aspect. We did the 12-hour Paul Ricard, we did the 18-hour Hockenheim. We won multiple times in the TCR class in those series, and that is what gave me the desire really to kind of do what we're doing today now. Is had to be an endurance racing, but maybe obviously at a higher level than the C1s, you know. And ultimately, that's where I kind of got involved with Max to see what we could do, what was possible.
So, Max, your first introduction to Rhys Lloyd, talk us through it.
It's probably at Croft, and Rhys was just a guy there racing with. You remind me of his name? It slipped out of my head.
Matthew.
Matthew, and
Yeah.
Matthew's a great young lad. And yeah, Rhys and Matthew were racing together. Yeah, I probably hadn't really realised it at the time, but Rhys was probably giving Matthew a bit of a leg up to be racing in the series alongside Rhys. And to be fair, that's kind of been a theme that's continued throughout his racing career in the endurance side of things. So yeah, that was my first introduction. But I think the first time we met each other there, but really it was doing the 24-hour C1 at Silverstone. I think was probably where we kind of really got to know each other. We were both sharing the car. We were probably the quicker two in the team, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just sort of we got on really well when we were there. It was such a laugh, and for me, I guess the weird thing is when I'm coming to do something like a C1 race, for a lot of people it is fun, but it's also like their biggest race of the year, or whatever they're doing is their biggest thing. Where for me it's usually coming and having a go, and it is just fun, just for a laugh. So it's a lot less serious than sort of like the cut and thrust of the Toka weekends. So I think I'd done a day at Brands or something. I was coaching Brad Gravitt, I think.
Yeah, I think you were late. You were late turning up, I remember. Because you meant to test the day and you hadn't even turned up until the night.
No, I was like, I can't make the testing. I'll turn up for qualifying. But it was like, we had to get a bit of special dispensation because I wasn't there for driver's briefing. They were like, okay, yeah, he probably knows what he's doing. It's okay. So they like give me a quick run through, and I think I turned up like maybe an hour and a bit into quali. So I hadn't even seen the car until I got in it to go out for qualifying. So anyway, we went out of the pits. I think I can't remember where we put the car on the grid, but I think I just nicked the time of the team, or I can't remember. And anyway, we came in, and I'd been out with my lights on dipped beam the whole time. I didn't realise we could turn them up to like full beam because I thought it would blind the marshals. So I did the whole thing on dip. I was still like, I don't know, just sixth on the grid or something like that. It was just class crack, and that's kind of how it went. So I just think, we hit the ball rolling, having a good laugh, and then that's exactly where things picked off in 20. What year did we race Britcar?
2021. 2022.
22.
Yeah, 21 was a 24 then. 22, yeah, it would have been 22, 23, 24, yeah. 21 we did the C1 24, yeah.
Yeah, so 2022 was a 24-hour, and then 23 we raced together in Britcar. So
and 22.
And so we did 22, we did a bit of 23. That's right. I'm getting lost off with what year everything was. And then that's kind of how things have rolled on, really.
Fantastic. So Dragonsport Racing is born, and you get yourself an Opel Astra TCR, so it's sort of one of the Gen 1 TCR cars, and you head for the Britcar Endurance. Now, you've had a mixed set of results in the car, unfortunately, because albeit the TCR cars are great race cars, you're then asking that effectively, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I could be completely wrong in saying this, but effectively they're built for sprint racing, so, and you're then putting that in an endurance setting, so you're also almost pushing it well beyond its specification. Am I right?
I think it's built for kind of 7 minutes of racing.
Well, it is a Vauxhall. I mean, let's be honest.
When you turn the car upside down, it's got a sticker on the back, and it says like built for 7 minutes at its best or something. It says. Yeah. It was. To be fair, I mean, it was born in, I think it was December 2021. I was obviously finished the C1 stuff, and I was like, right, I want to kind of get into doing something next year properly, kind of having a bit of our own brand, and I had a few ideas jotted down. So obviously I wanted to do endurance racing. Britcar was obviously the logical place. The British Endurance Championship was being launched for that year. There was a lot of kind of hype around it and bits and bobs. So I thought, that'd be a good place to go. I didn't want to get a Golf. I've driven a TCR Golf. I've driven a Leon. I've driven a 308. And I just wanted to have something that was going to be a bit different, a bit standout, which isn't always the best. But it seemed a good idea at the time. And I went over to Denmark to see the car. When I seen the car, I was like, we've got to have this. This just looks fast. It looked fast in the workshop, and I thought, you know what, we won't go wrong with this. And then obviously I went to Denmark, we got the car sorted, and I was just trying to put together who would be, a good fit to kind of come in to drive alongside myself then, and Max was a logical choice. Really, it was obviously one from a kind of a coaching perspective. Also, he can brings lots of value, and obviously, he had done a few Britcar rounds also recently in a Leon, I think it was it you were doing
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
And obviously, meeting him in the 24-hour race, and yeah, it fitted in well. And Dragonsport was born from there, really.
That is exactly where it started. We were a one car thing, and
Yeah.
essentially what it's become to be with the scholarship was not, I don't think, really a part of anybody's game plan at that point, was it?
No,
We
not
just
at that point. No.
we just literally we met and went, and we were going to go and race the TCR, and it was the first round was a bit of a baptism of fire.
Yeah.
We missed getting out of the pit lane to get to the grid. Then we had a drive shaft snap as the race started.
Yeah.
The comms cable had broke, so we couldn't talk to Rhys to get him back. Then did all the studs.
Yeah, they were threaded, didn't they?
Stripped or something in the pit stop. It just like everything that could go wrong went wrong at the first race. And it was like you just got to learn from it, sort all these things out, and go again. And then I think from there we were kind of doing all right. And had it been a class of solely Gen 1 TCR cars, we would have been right up the front. But that came just at the time that the new Coupe and i30s and just these new TCR cars was just naturally a quicker car, and probably newer, so slightly more reliable, to be fair.
It was frustrating because we did about 4 days testing, I think it was, before the first round, which was a decent amount. And to be fair, the 4 days testing went really, really well. As in, we didn't have a single problem. We breezed it, and we thought, bloody hell, we're going to have a good chance here. And I literally went to the first round, and even though I think the Friday and the first round went well, I think everything was going so well, wasn't it? Until that morning. I don't know what happened that morning. Max didn't go to church or whatever it was, but something happened that morning, and it just poured on us. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, didn't
it? Yeah. So that was the first bit, and we kind of cracked on from there, really, didn't we? We had a few good scraps, a few good races. We did have quite a bit of unreliability, unfortunately, but we were, to be honest, when we weren't in the pits, we were pretty quick. So so that was something to take from it as kind of as we went through the year. That was definitely kind of our thing going into what we plan to do as a second year, really.
And the other thing to remember as well, I guess, with the Astras, they weren't really developed even as a TCR car. There wasn't a lot of development in the cars physically from a factory backing, whereas, like you say, Max, the Cupras, the Audis, all of the Hyundais, all the newer stuff coming in. Effectively, I mean, I say it's a Gen 1 car. The Opel Astras was one of the first to be done. So you've picked what you think is a proven product that on the face of it is factory made and, it's got all this stuff in it. But then when you dig into it, they're not as developed as it perhaps should be. Which then, and that's not your guys' fault at all. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. You've seen it with poor. I feel for Darrell Wilson sometimes watching him in TCR UK because he's doing everything he can and trying to get the best out of the one he's running in TCR UK and seems to run into certain issues with it. So you go through a season with the TCR. And a couple of Gen 4 Clios pop into the occasion. Now, I'm going to be a betting man here. How much bending of the arm did Max do to get you to buy the Gen 4 Clio, Rhys? Come on.
There were two people involved in the bending of the arms. Yeah, I know. It was one of them. I'll go back. I'll just go back one point before I forget to tell you. The interesting thing with the Astra, from moving on to Clio, is like last year, there was 3 of those cars running worldwide. So if you think about it, how many Volkswagen TCRs running worldwide? How many Leos are running worldwide? How many Peugeot 308s? I mean, Darrell his co-pilot, and myself were the only three men running a TCR in the world. And that gives you the kind of size of the challenge you have against the other manufacturers, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my final point on the Astra. But yeah, going forward to the Clios, the Dragonsport scholarship came before the Clios. So the idea was born in February of 2022, before we actually started the first race, and I kind of said to Max that what I wanted to do for a scholarship. My train of thought was to get a Mini Cooper. I'd been to Spain, I'd seen a car, it had done the Spanish Endurance Championship, looked a really lovely car, and I thought, this is the car that's going to do the Britcar Trophy. This is the car, could be a scholarship car, brilliantly. And I had Rob Gaffney and my, obviously, a lot of Clio experience in 1 year. Max, obviously, my other year. And they were like, no, you need to get a Clio. And I was like, well, I don't want to get a Clio because everybody else has got a Clio in that championship. But ultimately, after a lot of deliberating and thinking about it, yeah, the Clio route is what we went down. And looking back at it now, it actually is been such a better decision going down that route, because ultimately it's got its own class. It's a great car. It's a reliable car, and it's exactly what you want from a race. It's just a mini little TCR car, and it's a super little car. So I'm so glad I did listen to those two people, because the journey wouldn't have been the journey without it now.
Yeah, no, and that is exactly what happened. Rhys was like, "I'm going to go to Spain and buy this car," and me and Rob were like, "You're an idiot! Don't buy it. You can save 15 grand, buy a Clio, and it'd be great." And then I think you bought 4. So it's that's kind of how it's gone. But the Clio, from my side, is exactly what Rhys has said. Reliable, competitive in that they're all pretty much identical and the same. So the racing in it is fantastic. I was already running one, so it made a lot of sense that if Rhys had one, then it was better from sharing parts and sharing data and kind of laterally working together as a team. So it made a lot of sense. And because there was a class there, it was competitive from the off, which I think was one of the things that makes the scholarship so much more impactful for people that are entering it. Where I think if they were coming into a bit of a random abstract car, I'm not sure it would really have the same value that it does by being in a competitive Clio Cup class. So that was where the first Clio Cup car came from. And then we had the challenge of trying to organise the scholarship first time round. So I've naturally done a few scholarships coaching, so I had a fair idea of how I thought the scholarship should run, how to do it. So Rhys kind of just let me get on with that, really, and to do whatever I thought was the right thing to do, and it developed and was a fantastic success in year one. It was a hell of a challenge, something that was completely new to me, but actually I think applying the learnings from quite a few scholarships that I've been to, I'm naturally going to say it felt like it all operated and ran well because I ran it and I'll want to sing my own trumpet. But I do think it went really well. We operationally it went well on the day, but a good number of people turn up and want to do it. The prize was fantastic, and ultimately we picked the right winner because Jack and Rhys have gone on to win the championship. So yeah, scholarship year one was born.
The process worked, didn't it?
Say again, sorry.
The process worked, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think that for me, obviously going back to the reasons on why I wanted to start a scholarship. Obviously, I'm not getting any younger. I still think I'm quite young, but obviously I'm not getting any younger. But I just had the opportunity, and I just wanted to give something back to somebody younger, obviously, and give them the chance to have this experience of doing Britcar, and it was a chance then for me to pair up with somebody obviously that's going to be really fast and really quick. and there's no other kind of motive behind it. Really. It's just giving opportunities. It's trying to give someone an opportunity that wouldn't have the opportunity, or somebody that it wouldn't be possible to race that season without it. We weren't looking for anybody that already had drives lined up for the following season or the championships. You were just looking for your fastest, nicest, the genuine reason why they needed it. That's what it was for me, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction being able to give that back now, coming from 2009 especially. It just to be able to offer that, it just means a lot to me. And from there, it's kind of evolved really, where it's kind of got a bit of more of a passion now. I really like working with younger drivers. And from our scholarship last year, a few drivers come through and have raced with us this year. Travis Coyne, Alex, and Harry Hickton. And it's been a pleasure working with them, really. Seeing them come through the scholarship, yeah, they ultimately didn't win the prize, but we've been able to work out arrangements between us all, and ultimately, hopefully, they've had development from it this year in the British Car Championship. Then.
Absolutely, and the scholarship has just grown exponentially, and obviously the bit that you spoke about there, Max, that's been valuable to this is experience. You can use your experience, I assume, from using the Ginetta and other scholarships are available, of course. But you can use your experience from those and take all the good bits from those, put them together, and ultimately put that into the Dragonsport scholarship. Take the bad bits and make sure that doesn't happen. So it's a good recipe there. And Rhys, I really admire the fact that the way you're almost giving back to the motorsport community and helping fund the next generation coming up and through.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do. And the most frustrating thing, or the most surprising thing from my point of view, then was, once we set up a scholarship and we were going to do it, was actually the feedback, not back on our scholarship, but in terms of, scholarships get a really bad rap, and there's a lot of bad vibes. You speak a lot of dads and like, oh, is it, we only get picked because of this, or you only get picked because of that. And like I said, there is no motive in the Dragonsport scholarship. It effectively is the fastest man wins it. The fastest man wins it, along with having the biggest reason because he can't race the next year, or a serious reason that comes into it. There is no other motives with it. You're racing alongside myself in the same car, so the car's going to be good. You hear so many horror stories of so many of the scholarships, and that was something that I was quite surprised at how much of that was actually out there. So I'm actually really glad in what we've done. We set our values out. We know what we're looking for, and I think Master Vouchers, it's a genuine scholarship.
I think so. To compare across the board, your other scholarships in the UK are primarily for young drivers. So each of the three current main junior series, Junior Saloon Cars, Fiesta Juniors, and Ginetta Juniors, all have their own scholarship. The only other scholarship that I'm aware of that is outside of junior racing that was still going was the Team Hard scholarship. And ours, and obviously back in the day, I'm wearing the top right now, but the Want to Race scholarship was the other sort of adult scholarship that was around. Now, when you look at any of these other scholarships, and you say this with a pinch of salt, they're all in a way commercially driven because they're all run by the championship that facilitates the series the next year. So for sure, these people are not making a profit out of their scholarships. But it helps to sell the championship and get bums in seats and get people to come and have a go. And in a way, there is a motivation to running it other than pure philanthropy. I've got to say, one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in scholarships was when Lawrence Tomlinson rocked up to the Ginetta Junior one. And there was the year that Maurice Henry and Robert DeHaan won. And like it was such a special moment because Lawrence, in very much like Rhys, Lawrence owns Ginetta, if anybody doesn't know.
Yeah.
So he rocked up and he basically, we're always looking for one driver. And he came to it and he went, he kind of comes along and he's like God when he rocks up, because everybody just, whatever Lawrence says is what he says, and that's what goes. But, he relies on his people to cull down to whatever number of drivers. And then he just went, there's one lad who's really, really quick. You can't not give it to him. There's another lad who's massively improving, and it'd be really nice to see where he goes. I've got the power to be able to offer 2 scholarships, so that's what we'll do. And everybody in the room was like, what? Like, you're just going to sanction another 100 or 80 grand spend? Like that. No, there was no thought for the money in it. So as much as I say it's commercially driven, for somebody like Lawrence, it isn't purely that. It was definitely a philanthropic
they've got the sports at heart,
mentality
really.
in it, and that is 100% the case with Rhys. So our scholarship is £499 to enter this year. I think it was 300 and something last year. But basically, the fee that people pay will cover the day, basically. Renting Blighton, renting the cars, having the team and people involved. So, paying for the website, my time to organise it, Claire, who comes and does the fitness, Richard that comes and does the media, hiring the circuit, the fuel, the tyres, etc., etc. There may be a couple of grand left at the end of it. They'll go back in towards the racing pot for the following year, but there also might not be. Rhys funds the drive that there is there. So for anybody looking at how the scholarship works, this isn't commercially driven. We don't make 50 grand out the back of the scholarship that we then put back in. Anybody can do the maths and work out, if there's 30 people there and they're paying 500 quid each, there's 15 grand's worth of money to run the thing. Our prize fund is a 50 grand prize fund. So it doesn't, that's not where the scholarship comes from. And the other thing that's different with our scholarship is that it is the only endurance scholarship. Everything else is a sprint race based thing, and this is formed off Rhys's passion for endurance racing. So that's kind of the differentiator between the other scholarships that there are. Why I think people should come and do ours in less than a month.
And I think it's nice as well, because this year we wanted, there's been a few other scholarships come out of the woodwork for this year. And as always, I always want to make it better and improve it. I think the day format of it actually was really, really good last year. So there's not many changes to that, bar being a simulator involved in this year's kind of evaluation process. But I wanted to add something extra onto the prize. So we're doing obviously the Britcar, obviously, which is one extra round over last year. So that's an extra round. But also I'm taking the Clio over to do one round of the Spanish Endurance Series. So it gives the scholar a chance to experience a race in Europe. And then obviously they're having a one-day test also in the TCR and in the Astra. So it gives them, again, a little feel for the European racing and a TCR test as well. So it just adds a little bit extra to it, hopefully. So, that's our kind of 2024 edition, really.
Well, I think now is probably the perfect time to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the drivers that have gone through that scholarship recently. We'll get a chance to talk about some fantastic talents coming through and talk about a little bit more about what happens with the scholarship on the day. But don't go away. This is a Driving Talk podcast powered by Icon. And welcome back to the Driving Talk podcast powered by Icon. Max has gone and got himself a jumper on. It is a bit Baltic out there at the moment. And we've spoken a lot about, Rhys, your history of racing, what got you into racing, and talking through scholarships in general. We're going to talk about the scholarship on the day. But first of all, I want to talk about some of the driving force literally behind Dragonsport racing. And I'm talking about drivers like Alex Neville, Jake Hewitt, Travis Coyne, Jack Meakin. So really, tell us about the drivers you've got behind this team.
Yeah, so obviously started the year obviously with the scholarship. Obviously last year then, and then obviously our first drive obviously that came into the mix obviously was Jack, Jack Meakin obviously who won our first ever scholarship. Um, Jack was pretty much tick so many boxes of what we were looking for from a scholar then in terms of what we probably set out last year, and again for this year what we're looking for a scholarship winner. Super fast, super consistent, willing to learn, willing to adapt, and I think as the year got on, he just got like stronger and stronger and stronger. And to be fair, I mean, by the end, it was it was a pleasure working with Jack. To be fair, it was just I knew he could pull out the bag in qualifying. He could put a car up there, and yeah, it was great. It was such a good position. I could get in the car as the second driver, or if it was a second as I was starting, I knew he would take over. And whichever position we were in, he'd put us in a strong position, really. And if we did need to chase the race, then he could hunt them down and be the hunter, as they say. But no, it was really good. So I think if anyone's out there looking at the scholarship for this year, I think the bar's been set obviously really high with Jack. Yeah, it's just trying to make a progression really for him now going forward. Really, I mean, it's a great accolade what he's done this year, winning the championship and winning overall. It's just how we can help him move his career forward now into a higher step, really, which is what he probably deserves at his age. Showed great maturity. I mean, I've lots of telephone conversation with him, lots of long car trips with him over the past year, and you keep forgetting how young he is. And that's a credit to him, really. I mean, he's set on a new journey this year. He's gone to Dubai and things as well, so he's got a lot on his plate to for 2024. To be fair, but yeah, so that was our scholarship driver. He was our winner, first scholarship winner, and obviously first Dragonsport winner as well. So I mean, it was kind of yeah, it's a big part of really the story, really.
I think the fact that he's now going to places like Dubai and racing out there kind of shows the progression that ultimately the scholarship has done for him.
Yeah, so Jack, he's moved to Dubai for his work, but ultimately, like we spoke about before he went. I mean, I think that where he set his stall up as in working wise, I think it's probably a good place to be. I know he's had some conversations over in different countries over there with different series and stuff also. It'd be nice to see Jack obviously still racing in the UK, but ultimately, he's got to do what's going to be best for him as well. And if an opportunity comes in Dubai or Malaysia, or you're fairly centrally located in the world there. He's got to take it, grasp it, and go for it. Really.
Absolutely. And
so going on, so yeah, going on from there. Obviously, then we had so the scholarship came last year, and from the scholarship we had a couple of runners up, which
okay.
we had Harry Hickton, Travis Coyne, and Jake Hewlett. So from there, Jake Hewlett and Travis Coyne kind of approached us about a few weeks after the scholarship. They kind of knew each other previously. I wanted to pair up to do run a car for them for Britgard for last year. Then, so working with Travis all years, it's been an absolute pleasure. Rob from Amigo obviously knew Travis before. And had an existing relationship with Travis. I didn't, but to be fair, lovely family. And Travis is quite a quiet guy, which is nothing bad in that at all. But he is absolutely rapid. To be fair, I mean his out and out pace at some occasions is like scary. But it just didn't come together for him this year. Unfortunately, it was more down to us and the car really than anything else. I mean, he just honestly, if Travis had bloody dropped 10 quid on the floor, he would have picked up 10 pence this year. He just had one of those years where everything he did, he was in such great opportunities many times, and it was just something so trivial that happened, But yeah, he stayed focused, he stayed positive, which is the most important thing. I've really tried to work really hard with him through the year, and kept him going, kept him passionate, and yeah, he's back for this year. Him and obviously Alex Neville will be campaigning in the 2024 Britcar series. I think they probably will be definitely ones to watch for the championship this year, because I think with them spending a year together as well, they're going to be they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. We had early on, obviously, Jake Hewlett partnered Travis up until the Autumn Park round. We did 3 meters. It was an interesting story with Jake. Obviously, he come from a sim racing background, which was, again, everyone's got a different way into racing, and no way is right, no way is incorrect. Really, it was just interesting. Having spent the first 2 track days with Jake at Brands Hatch, and I followed him around the Indy circuit for the first 2 days, and I was like, this guy's going to be interesting. I mean, his driving style was maybe a little bit like me. It was a little bit leery. It was definitely fast, and I was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to keep this guy under control. It's gonna be like it was like a dog on a leash, to keep like pulling him back, keep him going." But yeah, Jake was super fast. Yeah, and again, obviously, he was paired with Travis earlier on. They had a win in the first weekend in Britca, him and Travis. They had other runs as well where they were leading, but again, they had a few mechanical issues. And yeah, Jake, after Alton, parted with the team, and went on to do obviously his own thing, which was fine. And that's where Alec, we still speak to Jake, regularly. To be honest, I seen him in Donington, a few months ago. And then Alex, who was our driver coach, who came through the scholarship also, then stepped in to replace Jake halfway through the season. And to be fair, I think Alex and Travis probably, as a pair and as a harmony, probably work better. Just maybe in terms of car setup and things. It's always the most difficult thing in endurance racing is finding 2 drivers that have the same values and the same setup and things like that. So yeah, Alex it's been great to work with Alex, obviously through the year. Max obviously knew Alex before myself, working with him in Graves. So I don't know if you've got anything you want to say about Alex as well, Max.
Yeah, I mean, Alex is somebody I've known and worked with alongside at Graves. He's a very good driver coach, especially on the Mini Coopers, and I think probably from an experience side, which is probably my biggest thing over Alex, really, in terms of our 2 coaching roles, is his experience is relatively limited, even though his knowledge is very big. And I think having a year in the Clios will have really helped him to learn what a car without ABS and without just with a bit more power, something that can get you into a bit of trouble, can really do. So I think it'll have brought Alex on by doing these last couple of rounds in the Clio, and certainly he's going into a second season, and he's actually doing some racing next year, where the start of 23 he wasn't. So Dragonsport has opened the doors for Alex as well, and that comes as a result of the scholarship, because Alex was in our top, I can't quite remember what we narrowed down to, top 8, something like that. And to be fair, him, James Black, and Ben Davis were probably all drivers who were maybe on pace and on the day potentially more runners up, if you like, than possibly our 3 that ended up as being ambassadors for us. But ultimately, what we could offer as a prize wouldn't have really benefited those drivers, and actually, I think could and did really benefit Harry, Jake, and Travis, and what's led from that has been the right thing. Alex ended up getting a role within the team as a driver coach, so that worked out very well for him, and he's now into driving roles. So I think I think actually the decisions we made on that day kind of have fallen in quite nicely to create the Dragonsport team as it is today. And I think really, although from a driving point of view, I'm not as involved in the team anymore. My role there is more to do with the scholarship. We're kind of forgetting one driver who started it all, which is Rhys. So as much as he's kind of like the visionary of the team and the owner and stuff, he's there because he wants to drive. I know he enjoys and gets a buzz out of the rest of it. But he's there as a driver as well. So I think Rhys has always quite enjoyed the abstract cars. And has always gone down that route. But I think by listening to Rob and myself with the Clio, he's probably found a series that's or a car that's allowed him to develop more as a driver than he maybe perhaps thought in the first place. And Rhys has equally got quicker as this year's gone on. And I think now if he jumped back into a TCR car would be maybe a little bit faster, but probably more consistent and better at a number of other things than the TCR, having had that time in the Clio. So, as much as you talk about everybody else that's involved in Dragonsport, you've got to remember Rhys in there as well.
Going back to Alex as well, it's interesting because Alex, to be fair to him, when he came in from a driver coach to a drive, obviously it was a difficult period because obviously it was the first time we had a second car, and then obviously we had a driver leave halfway through the series, which is always, as it was both amicable and it was mutual and everything was fine with it. It still brought a lot of turmoil into halfway through the season. So to be fair, Alex came in, it was a difficult period. The good thing with him was if you know Alex Neville, he's very kind of calm and everything's very organised. So the only gripe I have with Alex is he always wants to be ever early. So if anybody knows me, I'm never early for anything, probably similar to Max, And so if we've got a meeting arranged for 8:30, for example, Alex would be there about 6:30. He's so organised, Everything is so geared out. The weekend, he maps the whole weekend out. So to be fair, he brings a lot into the team and the organisation of it, which probably we probably need, because sometimes it's a little bit of chaos. It can be, just to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my personal view of Alex, I've known him for a few years. I've met him through what we call the Racers Lounge alumni, which we'll actually come to in a future episode. So it's all part of a WhatsApp/sim racing group that grew from COVID. Yeah. And how I kind of got some closer acquaintances with the Graves clan and Paul and Sam Pearce and people. And Alex was part of that group. And getting to know Alex when he was doing his route through Cooper's, and the one thing you notice straight away, and you kind of put it on the spot there, Rhys, his attention to detail is second to none. He's so astute with everything. When he's working through with drivers, everything to the absolute minuscule detail. When he's working through something, it's impressive to watch. So
definitely.
Definitely something he'll be bringing to the party. And, from a personal point of view, he's a really nice guy. I'm looking forward to see how Alex goes this year.
Yeah, and then the last man that we can't forget about, which you could say he was a very, very close runner to winning the scholarship, was obviously Mr. Hickton, Harry Hickton. So Harry's obviously got the ambassador role with us after the scholarship. It was pretty nip and tuck between him and Jack. I probably can voice a little bit more now after obviously after a year on, but he was very, very close to winning the title. It was just a bit of an unknown. He was a bit younger than Jack, and I suppose coming from GACC, we weren't sure how he was going to step up. But all credit to Harry. Like he would be another model winner. To be fair, this year he's obviously very young. He's very mature. He deals, he sorts all his kind of racing out himself, and him and his dad, obviously, a great family. What he's achieved in Coopers in the first year has been pretty mega, I think. I think he's going to be one to watch out, definitely, as he progresses through the ladder. He did a couple of rounds with us this year, and we're hoping that he will retain him to do maybe a couple of Britcar rounds again this year and try and give him a bit more time out in the car. But his pace on a lap is bloody scary, to be honest. It's considering the lack of time he's had in a Clio with us. So when we've sent him out in something where we're like, oh God, how's he going to get on? He is definitely going to be one to watch for the future. I think Harry, I like Harry because he's pretty honest. So I don't, he's definitely a sprint car kind of guy. That's his vision. He wants to get to Toka. Yeah, he likes endurance, but I think that's his vision is to get to BTCC. He said to me, he came to the awards too, and his words to me was he wants to be an entertainer. And he said he couldn't be an entertainer on the endurances, but he could be an entertainer on the Toka package. And I was like, That's fair enough. That's not a bad story. So yeah, hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of Harry with us this year. Hopefully do a couple of rounds with us. But yeah, we wish him like all the best as well for this year in the Coopers. I know he's got a busy campaign as well on that front. You know?
He's probably picked one of the best one make championships in the country to race in. Certainly, that Cooper class of the Mini Challenge is extraordinarily competitive, and has been for the past few years. So, yeah, indeed, good luck to him. So, guys, I want you to picture the scene. I've paid my $4.99. I've headed up to Blighton Park, and I'm going through the gates on the scholarship day. So, from the start to the finish, what are we going to expect?
Fog.
Yes. Yeah. At Blighton Park, yes.
In fairness, we did not expect that last year. So when we arrived for scholarship, we had it all mapped out. I think we finished it probably gone midnight the night before, trying to map out the plan and get everything sorted, and just wanted everything to run as smoothly as possible. So we had our minute by minute run plan of the day. And then when we rocked up, you couldn't see the track for the fog. So I remember speaking to Russell, and who runs Blighton as from operationally, and we were like, "How long do you think this will take to clear?" He went, "Probably not today." Like really straight face. And me and Rhys were like, okay, I think we got a bit of a problem. Yeah. So I think we were fortunate we were only running 2 cars, so we were able to. We basically went on the proviso of if we split them half and half over a lap, they'd be able to see each other's headlights coming back the other way. And if the headlights aren't there coming the other way, then slow down because they've crashed. That was basically our operational technique. Yeah. But if you rock up this year and you've paid your £499 to come to do Dragonsport scholarship, you'll arrive at Blighton. There'll be a few different events and things for people to do. So the way we operate is that we generally split people into 3 different groups. It's slightly dictated by numbers, but effectively one group will go and do driving, the next group will go and do media, and the other group will do fitness. And then once each group has completed their assessment in each block, then they'll move to the next thing. So the driving assessments are obviously carried out on track. So we run from the hangar, and everybody. I think if there was anything that we probably learned the biggest from last year's scholarship was that people probably needed a little bit more run time, and the difficulty was we only had 2 cars between us, where Rhys has now amassed a small army of Clios, so we've got so this year we've got an extra car that will run in the morning, and will mean that everybody should get sort of a best part of a 15-minute session, and then a just under 10-minute session, basically. So that's the rough plan of what you would get on a driving front. So everybody gets a bit of time to go out and get used to what the car does. And although it's assessed, we're also very much aware that people are going to progress over the course of the day. So the first run is not the be all and end all of everything. The second run is probably a little bit more important to us. And actually, if we can see progression, then it doesn't really matter if somebody's not necessarily the fastest. They could still go through as long as they've shown a good amount of progression, and we think that there's a good chance that they could go, to the top of the pile with another run or 2 in the car. So that's the car assessments. And to be fair, that was something that I was very much involved with because I was in the passenger seat. So last year we had Will Powell helping us out. This year we had, and this year we'll have Travis in the other. So obviously they both have a lot of experience in the Clio now. Harry Hickson will be around, Jack will be around, and Rhys will be around as kind of spare hopping coaches. And then I'll let Rhys talk through kind of the media and the interviews, because he was probably more involved in them than I was last year. So,
well, before that, so with the driving side of it as well, Max. So you are almost looking for them, as well as the progression side, for the fact. Are you almost looking for the fact that they're also paying attention to any feedback?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year we had two guys in the champion, actually three guys in the scholarship who had pretty significant four that had pretty significant Clio experience. So both Jack Meakin and James Black had both done a year in the car in Brick Car. So the really, really good thing that we had last year was it was a really solid benchmark. So we effectively knew that them guys were about as quick as anybody else was in the Clio Cup class. So if somebody was faster than that, they're pretty rapid. And if anybody was slower than them, then we kind of had a rough idea as to where they would fit in on the grid. This year, I think we've only got one person who's raced a Clio before. Some of them have tested, but pretty much everybody is a complete fresh newbie. And last year that progression was pretty obvious from a few people like Harry Hickton. To be fair, Travis and Jake were all people who were okay in the morning, but definitely weren't at the top of the pile. But by the afternoon, in their sort of like runs after lunch, had really, really stepped the game up, and then were genuine contenders for being up there in the in the scholarship. Sorry. So yeah, progression is a big part of it, as well as kind of outright pace to begin with. But also it's the feeling that we get from the car. Brick Car is not a championship that is all about out and out pace and fastest lap, fastest over a lap. You've got to get to the end of every 50-minute race in the calendar, and our comfort from the passenger seat is to be taken into account. So, I think that somebody like Jack Meakin and Ben Davis kind of stick out, from last year. They were both really quick, but it both felt effortless to achieve that lap time, where others, like Harry, like Travis, like Jake, maybe hadn't quite refined their skills for that car yet. So were people that they could maybe get the same lap time out of the car, but you were wondering when you were going to fire it off into a field. And given a year working with them, Travis, Travis particularly has really improved on that, having done it a year with the team. So, it's experience, and the more time you have, the faster you go and the more comfortable it feels. So, there's that to kind of take into account. And in principle, that's partly why Jack was our winner last year. It wasn't just the pace, but it was also his way of delivering that pace, really.
So from the driving, we'll come to the media side of things. Is it my understanding you've got a certain Richard John Neal helping you with the media side?
Got an absolute legend, yeah. He's
Yeah.
To be honest, when you kind of put the scholarship together, you put your attributes together, what you want it to be, and you kind of want every sector to have a major asset, really, to tick box. And with the media, we thought, who better than Richard John Neal? He knows everything inside out. He's very well respected, and obviously, you just trust him. So he just ran his own department. He got on with it. I think he enjoyed it. It was, to be fair, he did look a bit knackered after the end of the day, because it was a long day, to be fair, for everybody. But yeah, and I think it's good as well for people that come into the scholarship. Also, I mean, this is something I was talking to people at NEC about on the weekend. Ultimately, even if you don't win the scholarship, you get the value of the day is in each segment you do. You can take something out of each of it, and that will progress you through your racing regardless. Or the people you meet on the day, the instructors you meet, Richard John Neal, Clay on the fitness, the guys with the sim. There's so many different elements of it that that helps. But yeah, going off tangent, but going back to Rich, yeah. So Richard does the media. And again, he's experienced, and he just knows what questions to ask, put it like that. So he'd have done his homework on everyone. He'll know everyone's entered. And there'll be certain things he will want to ask. There'll be certain things that maybe people won't be expecting him to ask. And that is ultimately what we want. We want to, not say catch people out, but, just throw the odd question in that would maybe bit of a curveball, really, and see how they...
Throw them off guard.
Yeah.
Because I think we've spoken about this actually. So I've worked alongside Richard a few times on the BRSCC this year, and when you're having a conversation with him and he talks about the scholarships he does, and he spoke about the Dragonsport one and the ones he's done with Janettas, straight away, Rhys, what you put in there about throwing in that curveball question, because he said you don't want the drivers to get too comfortable, because there are going to be times in their career, and it's going to help them, where they're going to get that difficult question. And life is like that. Sometimes you're going to have to sit there and either own up to something you've done wrong. Maybe you've had a bit of an altercation on the circuit, something that you've maybe misjudged it a bit. Max, you've been there at probably the most awkward interview ever at Thruxton with a certain fellow Clio driver. So you know what it's like. But Richard, one of the ways he kind of put it to me and that he'll put in with this scholarship will be, sometimes you've got to get them a bit uncomfortable, because they'll either sink or swim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other element of the media. So there's a few things that we're looking for on that front. One is that there's a professional, comfortable person who can talk, because ultimately they've got two objectives really in their year as a scholar. One is to find their drive for the following year. And the other is to represent the team and ensure that we have a full scholarship for the following year. So whoever wins it needs to be able to talk. We don't want somebody who's a mute. We need somebody with a bit of character, a little bit of charisma, somebody who can sell themselves and sell Dragonsport. And it isn't just Richard John Neal in on the interviews. We also have Karis, Rhys's fiance. So she is in there to uphold the Dragonsport element of the team. And she's also looking for somebody who she likes. She's got to spend a year with them. And if she doesn't like them, then they won't win. That's pretty much as simple as it is.
Yeah, to be fair, the good thing that you get is they're a bit chalk and cheese. So, they are polar opposites. So you've got Richard with some pretty serious, deep questions about racing, and you be, getting right into it. And then Karis will come out with a right-wing question, and you be like, where'd that question come from,
Yeah.
And it actually, when we put it, we put it together late last year, obviously the pairing, didn't we? And we thought, where's Karis' best role going to be? And then we put them together, and I was thinking, how is this going to work? Is Richard going to gel? Is it going to, how is it going to work? But actually, they were like a duo. It worked. It was perfect. Actually, it was perfect harmony, and it was the right balance of questions, I think, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, Karis isn't a motorsport expert. She comes along. She enjoys her weekends, being away with Rhys. But she isn't a motorsport expert. So the questions that come out of Karis are not necessarily things that people would expect.
Such as, come on, give us an example.
To what the team wants.
Do you know where Pembrey is?
So, it is something that people have got to learn to manage and deal with in their career, because going anywhere in endurance racing, you've got pro-am relationships, and there's lots of people that you need to be able to get along with and sort out, and Karis is a pretty major part of that for the Dragonsport team.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good, and it's going to continue for this year. And we'll tweak it and we'll keep it fresh, and obviously try and. But ultimately, we're in good hands with Richard. Richard can kind of guide through that part of it, and I got a lot of respect for him, obviously, and so does Max. I hope you do. I think he does, Max. I'm speaking on his behalf. I imagine it. So it's an honour, to be honest. You have him in after our scholarship. Because obviously it was a first year scholarship. We did it, and to put his kind of name and be involved with it was obviously a big part of it, really. So hopefully this year we will see what we've done last year, and he'll enjoy it again then. Yeah,
and it kind of it shows even more. I mean, not not that you were serious beforehand, it shows just how serious you guys are as a scholarship and putting yourself out there with a name like Richard John Neal. I'm going to sing his praises because I work with him and since day one when I've been doing the live streaming, he's a guy that's encouraged me all the way. A consummate professional and an all round good guy. So that's the three of us on the show that absolutely love and adore him, and I'm trying to get him on as well. So just keep bugging him to come on the show. But no, a credit to you guys for getting Richard John Neal on. Now, something I'm probably not going to be very astute at is the fitness. If you've ever bumped into me, I am shaped like a teddy bear. I can fit in a race car, though, so it's all good. The fitness side of things, so talk me through that. Is there a bit of treadmill running involved, or is it a bit more basic, or what are you looking for on the fitness side of things?
Well, so obviously, if you've never been to Brighton, obviously, I'm guessing. So we kind of take over the upstairs element of Brighton, effectively. So we've got a lady called Claire. She comes in. She's involved with us all season. So it's a nice mix, actually, because Claire's with the team all year. So she does a lot of our meal plans and, preps us on the day for stuff. And, yeah, gives us really good advice and obviously advises on fitness and everything that nutrition and fitness that a driver needs to be to go through the season, really. So she's involved from our perspective from a scholar. She again would spend the year with a scholar, so it just kind of made sense to have Clay involved with it. And now it's she just basically gets a hold of the upstairs of Blight and then she puts everyone through the paces. So again, it's like with the fitness, it's not the end all and be all. It is obviously quite important. But again, it's a balance of all of the different attributes, really, isn't it? It's trying to get, a good media, a good fitness, you're fast and sim. Obviously, the driving is the biggest aspect of it. So I wouldn't be put off by, because a lot of people, to be honest, it's probably the most concerned part of it. Drivers, I would say, if Max. I mean, everyone's like, oh, I know the driving and the media's that. And everyone's like, oh, the fitness. What's the fitness going to be like? Obviously, the more physically fit you are, the better. But I wouldn't be kind of put off to be, you're not running 25k or nothing like that, because we still need you to drive the car most parts of the day as well.
Yeah, I think, the fitness isn't to beat somebody out and make them throw up. And, if you're not rocking up with a six pack and a, sub 40-minute 10k, then you're not going to be the scholar. That's not how it is at all. As much as anything, the fitness is one of probably the elements that, as much as people are worried about it, it's also one of the elements that I feel like people come away from and have learned something from the day, even if they're not the eventual scholar. So we all know that it's an important part of being a racing driver. But Claire's job is to give us an assessment of people's fitness levels, but also to give us an assessment of their aptitude to pushing their own boundaries. How do they support other people in that fitness journey? So, if you're doing press ups or sit ups and you've got to, try and get somebody else to, do them by standing on their feet, do you encourage them? Are you not encouraging them? It's not just the fitness, it's your aptitude to it. So we want somebody to do, if somebody can do 15 press ups, we want them to do 15 press ups. We'd be far more impressed by somebody who does 10 press ups who could only do 8 than somebody who's done 75 but could easily have done 100. That's that's a part of it as well. So, and I think
it's the attitude towards it kind of thing.
Yeah, people can also go away with it, and Claire can either work with them or find a point within their fitness that they need to improve on post scholarship. So, it is an important part of our assessment. It's not necessarily the deciding factor. Although what I would say is, when it comes to the end of the scholarship, pretty much everybody's a fast driver. There's not a massive amount to pick from in that. So it kind of comes back to something else, because if they're both just as fast as each other and they're both good in the car, then there's no differentiator. It then comes down to what were they like in the media interview? How did they try in the fitness? And it could be something as simple as, when they were doing their fitness, they were really encouraging with the rest of the group. and then we go, yeah, and actually they were nice and they were nice in the interview, and they spoke to everybody, and they were quick in the car, and then you build up a picture, and that's how you decide they're a scholar. So um, for all it's not the deciding factor, it could be a very important part of everything that we do.
I guess as much as the physical side of things, you learn, like you say, you learn about someone's character quite quickly. And again, in their if in the fitness part they're pushing themselves to go a little bit further, you know what, I'm not really good at this sort of thing, but I'm going to push and try. And then in the, you get them in the media room, and they're as professional as they can be with Richard, but with Karis, they're taking both sets of questions as they are and trying to answer them as best as they can. You would obviously prefer to have a more rounded person in the car as well, because you've got to work with them for a year. So,
sure. Yeah, so the other element that we have at the scholarship this year is a simulator. So that will challenge people on something that they might not have experienced before. And again, is a part of the assessment, but not necessarily the biggest part of it. But it'd be great to have the guys at Sim Dynamics there to kind of showcase their simulators, but also provide another part of the assessment.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, it's pre my age group in terms of simulators. I mean, when I started, simulators were around, but they were probably horrific. The closest thing I got to a simulator was probably Toka 2. I think that was the.
There we go. I'll go with that, Rhys.
I mean, it did learn me a lot about racing, but probably not very much really. But I think now you see it, and when I was talking to Simon on the weekend, and it's just getting everything again. It's just an attribute to see how they adapt. It could be a random circuit, it could be in a random car. So how quick they get how to grips with it. And again, it's another touch point with another person, another viewpoint. And again, it just, we just take feedback from each department, and, the more eyes and ears, and ultimately the decision comes down to us, obviously, at the end of the day. But all of these touch points just come together usually, and some, as Mark said, there might be a small factor from the sim that we went, actually, yeah, that's a really good point, or yeah, that's a really good point about what Clay made about the fitness. And Richard actually said something really interesting, that he said in interview that he was doing this and not what we thought he was doing, and we're like, oh, okay, and all these things just come together to build a picture of a person, and ultimately, it is about the on-track activity ultimately, but all of these core attributes come together, don't they? And they build your scholar, really.
Absolutely. So, if anyone wants to apply for the scholarship, they've got, as far as I'm aware, until the 1st of February?
2nd of February, 8 p.m. So, we'll be putting that out in the next couple of days as our cut-off point. But yeah, that is it. So, get your entries in by then.
And to get those entries in, where are we heading to, chaps?
Head to the Dragonsport website. So it's dragon-sport.co.uk. You'll find a bit in there about the scholarship, which explains everything, and you can enter from there. I think the final touch point on the scholarship is kind of the shootout, if you like, which is kind of left a little bit open in terms of how we do it specifically, in terms of the numbers that we get down to. But effectively, we start to have a bit of a head-to-head out run to whittle down to probably a final 3, and then the last bit of decision making is down to Rhys, basically. So we'll chuck the last 3 out in car with Rhys. He's obviously taken everybody's feedback up till then. He goes out with them 3 drivers, and then we all go and sit away in the cabin and decide who we want. So that is that's how it works to go from what is probably 30 drivers down to a number that's definitely less than 10, down to 3, down to 1. So that is how we work it out.
And I can tell you, it was probably the most nerve-wracking day I've ever been involved with on this planet. I mean, I can think of days I've been involved with lots of different things over the years, but genuinely, it was I'm going to say it was horrific. It felt horrific because
In a good way.
the day flew. I mean, the time flew, the day flew, but it hits me when I drove into the circuit in the morning. I think I got up in the morning. I was thinking about it the night before. Thinking all the list of drivers. You're thinking, bloody hell, we got some great drivers listed here. Like how do you pick one winner? And I was remember we did the briefing in the morning. I'm looking at out. I'm looking, scanning all the faces, and everyone's looking up, and everyone's smiling, thinking, do you know what? Just one person out of this whole room is essentially going to be happy today, and everybody else is probably going to be going home thinking, bloody hell. And it's just, yeah, it's as much as you think it's bloody tough for us as well, to pick a winner, especially when you've got such great entries as well. And I think, without kind of letting the cat out of the bag, with this year, the entry list. So, I mean, the entry list this year's got a different feel to last year, 100%. Not in a bad way, just a more diverse field, I would say, of disciplines of motorsport. So again, I think it's going to be, fascinating. Like, it's going to be a really fascinating day, to be fair.
Fantastic. Well, perhaps once you've got your scholarship winner, we can bring them back onto the Driving Talk podcast at points throughout the year and discuss their progress. How about it?
Yeah, sounds good. Definitely. Let's get them on. Get them on.
We'll add it to the prize.
And what a prize that will be, I'm sure. But Rhys, Max, any last words before we end this very good episode?
See whoever's coming on the 9th of February. We'll look forward to sitting in car with you and hopefully getting you through to be the winner of the scholarship.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be an interesting one. Get your entries in. Like I said, it's a big opportunity, big boots to fill. But if you don't enter, you don't know, as they say. That's the thing. If you're looking for something to do for this year and you're on the sidelines, possibly, it's there for the taking. If you're talented and you've got what ticks all the boxes, then come and see us at Blyton.
Fantastic. Well, Rhys Lloyd, Max, my co-host, who's kind of half co-host and half guest this week, but it's a pleasure to have you on. This has been episode 2 of the Driving Talk podcast, series 2. We are powered by Icon, and this has been Enter the Dragon. Don't forget to listen to all of our previous episodes of the Driving Talk podcast on YouTube, Spotify, all your good podcast providers. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to us. And don't forget, episode 3 will be coming out in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out on our socials at Max Coach Racing, at Robert Lewis 1991 on Instagram, and on various socials with Track and Road Icon events. We will keep you posted on future guests. But for now, it's goodbye from us three.